Thank you very much. As you probably have heard, and some of you have reported, a missile was launched a little while ago from North Korea. I will only tell you that we will take care of it. We have General Mattis in the room with us, and we've had a long discussion on it. It is a situation that we will handle. With that being said, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi did not show up for our meeting today. I'm not really that surprised. We have a lot of differences. They're weak on crime. They're weak on illegal immigration. They want the illegal folks to come pouring into our border, and a lot of problems are being caused, although we've stopped it to a large extent, as much as you can without the wall, which we're going to get. They, before this meeting and before this missile launch, they've been weak on military in terms of spending. They're very hard to get for military. They want it for a lot of other things, but the military is always secondary to them. The military, to me, is number one. We won't be here without our powerful military, and we're building it up stronger, bigger, better than ever before, and General Mattis can testify to that. And the other thing, they want tax increases, and we want major tax decreases. So they decided not to show up. They've been all talk, and they've been no action. And now it's even worse. Now it's not even talk. So they're not showing up for the meeting. I will say this, in light of the missile launch, probably they'll be here fairly quickly, or at least discussions will start taking place fairly quickly. I think that we're in a very good position in terms of the meeting we just had over at the Capitol with the Republican senators. It was outstanding. I think we have tremendous support. I was just informed by Mitch that we had a unanimous vote from the Republican side, at least. We had a unanimous vote on the tax bill, and it goes now the next step, and I think we're going to get it passed. I think it's going to pass, and it's going to be very popular. It's going to have lots of adjustments before it ends, but the end result would be a very, very massive, the largest in the history of our country, tax cut, and lots of good things are going to happen, including the bringing back to our country of, it probably will end up being over $4 trillion, money offshore that's stagnant, that companies, and they're just not able to bring it back. So I think it's going to be a number over $4 trillion. Corporate will be able to compete now against the world. If you look at China, if you look at so many other countries, you look at many of the countries, China's at 15%. They're lower than us. We're getting it down to a level that is either going to be lower or right in the ballpark, so that we can compete much better with our companies, our great, great companies. And that means jobs, and it means lots of other things. I'm very happy to see that the consumer confidence level is just about the highest it's ever been. In fact, I don't want to make any mistakes in front of the press because you'll get me on it, but to the best of my knowledge, it's the highest it's ever been. Consumer confidence has been setting records. They have confidence in the people leading their country. And I will say that I think it's going to go better and better, and I do believe that this vote on taxes, which are really tax cuts and reform, is going to be very, very important. So we had a good day today. We had a phenomenal meeting with the Republican senators. We had, it was very special, that meeting. In many respects, I wish you could have been inside that room. It was very, very special. The camaraderie. It was somewhat of a love fest. They want to see it happen. They want to see it happen, not only for the Republican Party. I think much more importantly, they want to see it happen for the country, because they know how important it is for us to compete and win. And with that, maybe we'll start with Paul Ryan to say a few words about where we stand with different things, and then I'll ask Mitch McConnell.
Okay. I'll just briefly say I think it's regrettable that our Democratic colleagues in leadership chose not to join us today. For a bill to become a law, Congress has to pass a bill, and the President signs a bill. That means Congress and the White House always negotiate legislation. We have important work to do. We have big deadlines to meet. We have a military in need of our support, and that work needs to happen now. And I just think it's very regrettable that our Democratic colleagues in leadership chose to not participate, because we have to negotiate these bills to get this work done for the people we represent, and especially to help our military with these difficult situations we have. And I just hope that our friends in leadership on the other side of the aisle will choose to participate so we can get the people's work done.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I would just add, I've been in this position under a couple of previous presidents. I can't recall ever turning down an opportunity to go down to the White House. As the Speaker mentioned, only one person in America can sign a bill into law, and that's the President of the United States. You cannot negotiate the year-end, the omnibus spending bill without the person who signs the bill in the room. So I think the Democratic leaders in the House and Senate need to understand the way the government works. And the administration has to be a part of the ultimate negotiation over what the spending level is going to be for the next year.
Well, we are very far apart because our views on crime and our views on immigration and the military, so many are different. But a lot of things have happened even over the last 2 hours with respect to the missile launch. We want our military funded, and we want it funded now. It's going to be bigger, better, stronger, it already is, than ever before. But we want to get going on that now. So that is a difference, in all fairness, from this morning when I told them that we're way, way far away. And with that, I may just have General Mattis say just a couple of words about what he has found out. General, do you want to say just a couple of little pieces of information?
Mr. President, Senator, Speaker, a little over 2.5 hours ago, North Korea launched an intercontinental ballistic missile. It went higher, frankly, than any previous shots they've taken. It's a research and development effort on their part to continue building ballistic missiles that could threaten everywhere in the world, basically. And in response, the South Koreans have fired some pinpoint missiles out into the water to make certain North Korea understands that they could be taken under fire by our ally. But the bottom line is it's a continued effort to build a threat, a ballistic missile threat that endangers world peace, regional peace, and certainly the United States.
Thank you, General, and we will take care of that situation. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
North Korea, these missile launches today, does it change anything about your basic approach to dealing with it?
Nothing changed. Nothing changed. We have a very serious approach, and nothing changed. We take it very seriously.
Do you believe there will be a government shutdown, Mr. President? Would you blame Democrats if that happens?
If that happens, I would absolutely blame the Democrats. If it happens, it's going to be over illegals pouring into the country, crime pouring into the country, no border wall, which everybody wants. I got elected partially because of a border wall. You look at the military, we want strong funding for the military. They don't. So many things. As an example, they want high taxes. We want cut taxes. We're going to cut taxes. We're going to reform. We're going to simplify. They want high taxes. We want low taxes. So there's a lot of big differences. So we'll see what happens as to shutdown. We'll see. But right now, things have changed over the last 2 hours because 2 hours ago a missile was launched. I think that will have a huge effect on Schumer and Pelosi. I think. We'll see. We're going to learn very soon. They should be calling immediately and say, we want to see you, but probably they won't because nothing to them is important other than raising taxes. That's the only thing they like doing is raising taxes. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Are the North Koreans thumbing their nose at you after your...
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Joining me to discuss, Fox News strategic analyst Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters. Colonel, she's over there in Beijing of all places, attacking our president and criticizing him for his handling of Kim Jong-un. Certainly inappropriate. We can get to that in a second. But first, your reaction to this news that Kim Jong-un has fired another ballistic missile.
Well, that is a couple parts to it. First of all, we do need to wait until the technical data comes in so we learn if it was a real intercontinental ballistic missile test that may have advanced their program, or if it was Kim just doing a shorter range act of defiance. Now, some Japanese sources claim the missile already did a belly flop in the ocean and wasn't a big deal. We'll see. But I think something that people are missing is that he had to do something. North Korea in the last few weeks has gotten such bad global publicity because of the film of the defector coming across the DMZ, the revelations about this soldier, North Korean soldier, who was one of their elite, one of the pampered elite, was riddled with roundworms and multiple diseases. And so I think this was an act of defiance, and Kim showing he's still in the game.
So turning now to Mrs. Clinton, former Secretary of State, and I know you're not impressed by this new rhetoric out of her, latest rhetoric, I should say. Your thoughts?
2 points. First, it's a critical art in life to know when to get off stage. I hope I have the grace to realize that myself. But Mrs. Clinton, I mean, she's behaving like an aging diva, like Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard. She can't let go. She can't get off stage. She's living in past glories. And to mix my metaphors, she's turning into the nasty, nagging know-it-all aunt that nobody wants at the holiday dinner table. It's time for her to just, no more Clintons, thanks, we had it. You had your shot, go, leave.
She had her shot. And by the way, you know, any problem that we're dealing with right now on the North Korea front, isn't that thanks in part to Hillary Clinton, who was Secretary of State, in part to her husband, who allowed Kim Jong-un to basically be as powerful as he is today? And there's plenty of blame to go around, so I won't put it all on Bill Clinton, but he's part of that. And then, of course, Barack Obama.
Yes, indeed. You're certainly right. And in this particular case, the second point about Hillary's terrible judgment, to put it kindly, in Beijing, is that it was just ethically wrong for her as a former presidential candidate, former Secretary of State, to go to Beijing and criticize one of President Trump's policies that's actually working, to a degree at least, his tougher stance on North Korea, his willingness to take somewhat tougher steps toward China. But even if she were 100% right, you don't do it. In her position, you don't go to a hostile capital, and Beijing is a hostile capital, and criticize your president's policy. And by the way, she just let President Xi off the hook by saying, oh, China's got to back off on this, stop talking tough, or we'll have nuclear war. And then she also gave an easy pass to Kim Jong-un.
All right.
Bad,
Hang tight, Colonel.
Yeah, good morning to you, Sylvia. Well, these are reports out of South Korean media, which are saying that North Korea has just test-fired a ballistic missile. Now, at this stage, it's believed that that missile has been fired from the South Pyongyang province in what is a pre-dawn launch. That is rather unusual for North Korea. Now, it's been more than 2 months since we've seen any kind of activity on this scale from North Korea. It was back in September when we were almost seeing ballistic missile tests in once a week. That was the month when we also saw North Korea test fire a nuclear weapon in the form of an H-bomb. Now, authorities here in the United States, as well as Japan and South Korea, had been expecting this test firing. In recent days, there was a bit of radio chatter as well as satellites picking up the movement of equipment around North Korea. At this stage, the trajectory of this latest ballistic missile is unknown. That is being analysed here in the United States as well as Japan.
Just confirmed with a senior U.S. defense official that, in fact, North Korea has launched a ballistic missile. The launch came at about 3 a.m. local time, just north of Pyongyang, the North Korean capital. It's an unusual time for a missile to be fired. Usually they are fired at dawn. We know that this missile went to the east, but right now the Pentagon and U.S. Pacific Command are analyzing the trajectory. We don't know if it was an ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile, but we can confirm with senior U.S. defense officials what the South Koreans have been reporting, that North Korea launched a ballistic missile not long ago, firing it to the east. Again, we don't know how far it flew and whether it was an ICBM or not. Harris.
Well, we waited for a few minutes for this confirmation, and I know that there are a couple of things that you say still we do not know, and that is the type of missile this is. But Jennifer, this is not happening on a day in which there was no news with North Korea. I mean, this day started in the wee morning hours of reports, at least from Reuters, and now building upon different sources, in which North Korea says it's farther along in its nuclear program. The South Korean ministry saying, you know, it looks to be that that is the case.
Absolutely. In fact, the reports came from the South Korean reunification minister saying that within a year, North Korea would have completed its nuclear program. Remember, North Korea already has about 20 nukes. So it's not that they don't already have nuclear capability, but this is a new report from South Korea suggesting that within a year, the latest intelligence suggests that North Korea's nuclear program would be complete. This is obviously a worrisome time. There is a White House meeting slated. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis is supposed to be over at the White House this afternoon. That meeting was to be discussing budget issues. The president had invited him to sit in on that meeting with congressional leaders. It is clear now that they will have to address this latest provocation from Pyongyang.
All right. One of the new details that you brought us, and I'm asking our panel to sit by here. We have a gentleman with us today who worked for Senator Mitch McConnell, and no doubt this will come up on Capitol Hill now, so I'm going to ask you guys to stand by and get to this. I want to talk with you, though, Jennifer, about the timing. This happened in the middle of the day for Americans, so if they're trying to get our attention or the world's attention, it's not the overnight. And you mentioned the timing. Talk to me about it.
Well, it's interesting. Often what we have noticed is that Pyongyang will fire, particularly if it's an ICBM, at about 6 a.m. local time, Korean time. That ends up being about 6 p.m. here. We're 12 hours ahead on the East Coast of the United States. Again, it's hard to get into the mind of the leader of the North Korean regime. It's not clear at this point whether this was an ICBM, but certainly this ballistic missile, the first, as you mentioned, that has been fired since September 15th, it has gotten the attention of the U.S. military, and certainly the president will be briefed as soon as there is more information about how far this ballistic missile flew, whether it threatened any of the allies in the region.
Media that North Korea has launched a ballistic missile. Will Ripley is joining us from Seoul, South Korea right now. Will's been to North Korea more than a dozen times. Will, tell us what South Korean media is now reporting.
Yeah, this is a reliable source here, Wolf. This is the Yonhap News Agency, which is often our first line of information when we hear about these North Korean missile launches. And they are saying the ballistic missile has been launched from somewhere in North Korea. But that is all that we know right now. There are obviously lots of questions about the trajectory of this missile. North Korea has waited more than 2 months since their last missile test back in mid-September. You'll recall that missile, the intermediate range Hwasong 12, was fired up over the northern Japanese island of Hokkaido. September was a busy month for the North Koreans. 2 major missile launches and a nuclear test happened all within the span of a month. But then there has been silence from Pyongyang. But in the past couple of days, we have been getting indications, sources in the United States and South Korea, as well as Japan, saying that they have been observing preparations and hearing radio chatter that there could be a ballistic missile launch imminent in the coming days. And it's the middle of the night here, Wolf. Normally, North Korea does these things around dawn. However, it's 3:43 in the morning here in Seoul, which would mean that it is 3:15, just about 3:15 a.m. in Pyongyang. We don't know where this North Korean missile was launched from. And again, we don't know, was it headed over Japan? Did they fire it in a different trajectory? North Korea has been saying that they would fire a missile on a southerly trajectory toward the U.S. territory of Guam. We don't even know if the missile is still in the air right now. And this is the way that it goes when we get these reports. But we do know that North Korea has been preparing for a major test. And in fact, with each passing day of silence, there has been growing concern about what exactly they're going to do. In fact, there was a press conference just here in Seoul within the last maybe 6-7 hours or so, where the unification minister, Cho Myong-gyon, said that they believe North Korea could be finalizing its nuclear program by next year, which backs up CNN reporting from over the summer, where we said that North Korea could have a reliable, nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missile ready by early 2018. That could be a matter of weeks away from right now, Wolf.